Hello everyone and welcome to the 26th webinar in the RUS series. My name is Georgia Karadimou and in this webinar we will learn how to detect rapid landslides using Sentinel-1 data and the ESA Snap Sentinel-1 toolbox. We will analyze the Fagraskógarfjall landslide that occurred in West Iceland in July 2018 by using the SAR interferometry technique and exploiting the phase, amplitude and coherence characteristics. We will talk a bit about the study area and have a short introduction to landslides, the Sentinel-1 constellation, the RUS service, then we will continue to the exercise in RUS virtual machine. We will have the take-home message and a Q&A session will follow. The webinar will last around 1.5 hours and please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and you will be able to repeat the exercise by yourself later, since this recording will be available both in our YouTube channel and our training website. Please also note that it is advisable to start sending us your questions immediately as soon as you have one and throughout the webinar, since we are here with my colleagues to answer to as many of your questions as possible. This way, we will not have too many questions accumulated for the Q&A session. Now let's have a look to our study area. As mentioned, the landslide luckily occurred on a remote part of Iceland on July 7, 2018, and based on former satellite data, the hillside was known for its instabilities since 2015. It was one of the largest recorded landslides with an approximate volume of around 10 to 20 cubic million meters. Here we can also see the area the debris from the landslide occupied. But let's see some general information about landslides and their structure. In general, landslides occur in a variety of environments and can be categorized based on the type of movement and the type of material involved. They are common in areas of steep topography and can be triggered by both natural processes and human activities. They can lead to damage of infrastructure or blocking of water sources, and in the worst cases, in loss of life. The type of the one we study today belongs to the debris fall. Next, we can see the classification illustrated. The primary driving force for a landslide to occur is gravity, but then there are other factors that affect the slope instability as well. In many cases, a landslide is triggered by a specific event such as a heavy rainfall or an earthquake. The landslide we are studying was likely triggered by the large volume of rainfall that Iceland received during the 2018 summer. The run-out angle of the landslide is around 12 to 13 degrees, which is relatively long in comparison with other large landslides. The landslide crossed the river below, partially blocked it, creating a dam, and a lake was formed above the debris tank. Since the landslide fell from an area that showed evidence of earlier ground displacement, it might be considered to have been an old landslide deposit. The area of the debris tank is around 1.8 square kilometer and the debris is up to 20-30 meters thick. Okay. Now let's see quickly some information about the Sentinel-1 data we will use. In this exercise, we will be using SAR data provided by the Sentinel-1 satellite. The Sentinel satellites are included in the space component of the Copernicus program of the European Commission and the European Space Agency. The Sentinel-1 mission is formed by a constellation of two twin satellites phased at 180 degrees to each other. It is an active sensor working on C-band. It includes a right-looking active phased array antenna, providing fast scanning in elevation and azimuth, and it provides data with a short repeat cycle of 6 days and with different imaging modes. Here you can see the 4 different acquisition modes, of which we will use the IW, which is meant for land applications, and the 4 products of the modes, of which we will use SLC, since it contains complex data of amplitude and phase that is necessary for interferometric processing. In the next slide, you can see the three subswaths the interferometric wide swath consists of and the 9 bursts of each one. But let's talk now a bit more about SAR interferometry. When we obtain two radar images over the same area that are of the same orbit and have the same geometry, we can create an interferogram which represents the deformation between two SAR acquisitions by calculating the phase difference of those two products. The interferometric phase consists of fringes, and one full color cycle has values from -3.14 to +3.14. With interferometric processing, we can also obtain information about the coherence of two images. This means how well correlated is each pixel of the slave image to the corresponding to the master image pixel. The closer to 1 the value, the more coherent the image is. Let's continue now to some information about RUS service. RUS stands for Research and User Support for Sentinel core products. It is an initiative funded by the European Commission and managed by ESA, with the objective to promote the uptake of Copernicus Sentinel data and support research and development activities. The service provides a free and open scalable platform in a powerful computing environment, hosting a suite of open source toolboxes pre-installed on virtual machines, which allow you to handle and process the data derived from the Sentinel satellites. What does this mean? Well, with a large amount of data produced by the Sentinel satellites, the challenge is no longer data availability, but rather storage and processing capacity. To solve that, RUS offers virtual machines so that you have the appropriate computing environment to handle the data. In addition to all that, RUS also provides a specialized user help desk to support your remote sensing activities with Sentinel data and a dedicated training program. You can find all the information about the project and how to register on our websites, so I recommend you to check them after the webinar to get familiar with the service and see the VM specifications, list of software, etc. I will quickly show them to you before we start the exercise. As I mentioned in the beginning, we also have a YouTube channel where you can find all the videos of our previous webinars, and you will also find this one in a couple of days. Now, let me show you quickly all the processing steps we will perform in the exercise. First of all, we need to co-register the two products that we will use, the two Sentinel-1 images. So what we will do is we will use a processor that is reading both of them. Then it is splitting them because we need to select in which subswath and in which burst our area belongs to, because we cannot process all of them at the same time and we don't need to. Then we will apply the orbits, and with this step we will have accurate satellite position and velocity information, and then we will co-register with the back geocoding and enhanced spectral diversity operators. Finally, from this output, we will create an RGB image. There we will be able to detect the changes from the first to the second image, so we will detect the landslide. After that, we will proceed to the INSAR steps. So the product we will read will be the output, the co-registered one. We will first create the interferogram, then we will apply the deburst option, then we will apply the topographic phase removal operator to remove the phase due to topography. Then the next step is multi-looking, where we want to obtain square pixels in our images. Finally, we will filter the phase and we will have an output. So once we have done that, then we just need to geocode them. We need to create an output that can be read in Google Earth and in QGIS. We can also subset the area if we don't need it all, and finally export the products. So let me now show you quickly the websites. So here we have the RUS-training.eu website, where if you click in the training, you can see all the upcoming and the past events we are organizing. For example, if I go to the past, let me go to a past one. If you click on more info, you can find the recorded video of the webinar plus a Q&A session document. You can also go to our e-learning courses and practice on different topics we offer. Then we have the RUS portal, where you just create an account here. You click on login register. You can create your account, and once you have it, you can log in. I have my credentials saved. And here you can find all the information you need. For example, if you go here to the RUS library, Learn by Yourself, in the RUS lectures section, you can find all the tutorials from our previous topics we have created. You can navigate to the other tabs, go to the RUS offer and see the computing environment, the training, and what we can offer to you. So once you have that, once you have your account, you can go to your RUS service, your dashboard, and here you can request a new user service. You can specify the area of interest, the products you want to use, and the purpose of your project, and you can have a virtual machine based on your needs. Once you have it, it will appear here on the lower part, and then you will click on Access My Virtual Machine, and you will access with the credentials you have. This page is redirecting you to a Guacamole window where you insert your credentials and then you can use the virtual machine. As I mentioned, we also have our YouTube channel where you can go and find all our previous webinars and you can practice on them and you can repeat them following the tutorial. Okay, but now let me continue to the RUS desktop. So this is how it looks like. So let me go to full screen mode so that it is a bit bigger. Okay, here you can see that we have all the software pre-installed and it is delivered like that when you receive your virtual machine. The first thing we need to do to start our exercise is to download the data. So let me click here, and once you click here, you have these two tabs by default opened. So here you can access the Open Hub and download all the data you need. And here you can go in the RUS user forum and write any questions you might have. So let's go back to the Open Access Hub. If we click on Open Hub, it redirects us here. So I have it already open, so let me close this window and go here. So you come here, you log in with your account. It's very simple to create one. And then you navigate over the area that is of the interest for your study case. So here we came here to Iceland, to the west part, and we drew a polygon. We come here, we select this one, we draw a polygon, and then we click here on the left, and we come here to set the parameters. The landslide occurred on July 7th, 2018. So what do we need to do? We need to have an image which is before the event and an image which is after the event to see the changes in the area, to be able to detect the landslide. So the first one we will search for is we will come here in the sensing period and we will select from this calendar the 23rd June 2018. We will also do the same to the second part. We will search for the images one by one. So here we select mission Sentinel-1. As product type from the list we select SLC as we mentioned before, and we select the IW. We also select here the relative orbit number to be 16 because, as we said, we want both of the images to be of the same geometry, so that means that they both need to belong to the same relative orbit. Once we're here, we click here on search. And you can see that this search gives us back one result, one image. But here you see that this image is offline. Since 1.5 years now, all the products that are in the Copernicus Open Access Hub that are older from 1 year, they go offline so that we save some storage space. But once you want a product, in order to be able to download it, you click here on Download Product. Then you receive this message that says that you successfully initiated the retrieval of the product. You click OK, and this goes immediately in your cart. Remember, with your account, you can usually request one product every 30 minutes to 1 hour. The product is usually available in a few minutes after your requests. Sometimes, if the Copernicus Open Access Hub is very busy of requests, it might take some more time. Or if there are many users waiting for retrieving products, you might not be able to request your product, so you will get an error message. But be patient, and once you will manage to request it, it will become online. But remember that when the product becomes online, you don't receive a notification. You need to go to your cart, where you see that your product is stored in there. And once it will become online, this gray area will become white and you will be able to download it. Once a product becomes online, it remains like that for 4 days so that more users can download it if needed. Okay, so we have the one product now. For the second one, we will keep the rest of the parameters as we have set them before. And we will go here on the dates and we will just go and select the 17th of July, which is an image after the event. We search again and we see that this product also is offline, so we request it the same way. Once they are downloaded, both products, we move them to the folder we want to use. Okay, let me close this one, we don't need it anymore. And now we can start our exercise. Let's open Snap. In case you're not familiar with Snap, this is how it looks like. Here we have the menu on the upper part. On the left we have the Product Explorer window where we load all the products and each one that is created appears here on the left. On the right we have the View window, which means that whatever product we want to visualize and we click it from the Product Explorer to open, it opens here in this view. And then we can go here to the left to the navigation and we can see in this small window whatever is in this big view window. Also we have the world map, so every product we insert in Snap, we can see where exactly it is located on the globe, and many other tabs. Okay, so first of all, let me load the products that we will use. So I have it open here. So I click on the first product, which is of the 23rd June 2018. I drag it and drop it on the Product Explorer window. Once it is added, I do the same for the second one. If I go now to the world map and I click here, I see where the products are located on the globe. Let's have a better look now in the products. Let me expand the first one. So as you can see here, you have some information, some folders, metadata, vector data, type point grids, quick looks, and bands. The important we need to navigate at is the bands one. So if I open it, we see here that we have some bands. As we mentioned in the introduction, every product contains 3 subswaths. So here we have all the 3 of them. And since this product is of a dual polarization, this means that it contains information for both VH and VV polarizations. We will open all the intensity bands for the 3 subswaths of the first product only for the VV polarization. So first I click here on this one, then I click on the second one, then on the third one, and we wait until they open. All the bands are open now. So what I will do is I will go here to Window, Tile horizontally, so that I have them all in parallel. If I go here to Navigation tab, and I need to have these two options selected. This way I can synchronize the cursor position across multiple image windows, like here that I have the 3 of them, and also synchronize the views. Let me just zoom to all of them so that we see them. So here, if we zoom in, we will see that we have 9 bursts. As mentioned, the product consists of 3 subswaths. So this is the first, the second, and the third. If we go now back to our world map, we can see that these images are actually reversed. Why is this happening? So this product we have downloaded, it was acquired on an ascending path. That means that the satellite was moving from south to north. So if we zoom in, we can see that here between the bursts we have these areas that seem to be black. So in the edge of each one of each burst there is information contained that is being overlaid with the edge of the next one. This is to help us to manage better the data so that we don't have big volumes of them. They are split in small parts. So this problem will be solved in the deburst step. Now that we have seen that, we can go on the second product, and if we expand it, we can see that it contains exactly the same type of information as well. We do not have to open them all. So what we know is that our area of study belongs here in the second subswath on the 6th burst. So as I mentioned in the introduction, the first thing we need to do is to put those two images together to co-register them. How are we going to do that? First, let me close the views. Okay. So we will go here to Reader, Co-registration, Sentinel-1 TOPS co-registration, Sentinel-1 TOPS co-registration with enhanced spectral diversity. Once I open this default one, let me expand it a bit, I see that some tabs appear over here. Let's go to one by one, step by step, as we said. So the first thing we need to do is to read the two products that we want to co-register. The first one we see, it is the first one opened in the Product Explorer window. On the Read tab number 2, we select the second one. Here we see that we get an error. It says that the entire image is outside of SRTM valid area, and it is asking us to use another DEM. SRTM can cover areas between minus 60 degrees and plus 60 degrees of latitude. So since this area is quite in the north, we need to select a different digital elevation model. For that one, we need to go to the Back Geocoding tab and select here an appropriate one. I will select this one. You can also select any other you want. And once I click here, I can go back again to the previous tab I was, and you see there is no error anymore. So the next step is to go and split the data, to select only the subswath we want, and from the subswath only the burst we want. Remember that in both read tabs, the information we insert has to be the same, otherwise the co-registration cannot be successful. So we go here, let's zoom in the area. In our case, as we said, we want the IW2. We want to select from polarizations only the VV. And as I mentioned, we want to select the 6th burst. So I move this part until I see the 6 here. And you see that the rest of them are being removed from the view here. And I move the other one as well. But if I select only one, due to some snap restrictions, the whole process will fail. So the minimum it is advisable to use for every processing is 2 bursts. So I select 6 and 7. I go to topsar split 2. You see here that we have an error that says same subswath is expected. So I insert again the same parameters like before. And once I do that, if I go to the previous tab and then move to the next one, you see that the error has been disappeared. The next is to apply the orbit files, as we said, to get accurate satellite position and velocity information. The orbit files, the updated ones, are usually available in a few days after the release of the product. In this case, since the products we're using are quite old, there is no problem, the orbit files are available to be downloaded. But in case you are using a product that is released only a couple of days ago from the today's day, you need to select the Do Not Fail if New Orbit File is Not Found option. Because if you do not select that, and there are no new orbit state vectors, then the whole process will fail. So just in case, let's select it. And for the back geocoding, as you remember, we selected before the proper digital elevation model, and we keep the rest of the options as we want. Optionally, you can select another resampling method and type if you want to, but you can also keep the default ones. And in the Enhance Spectral Diversity, we do not change anything. Finally, we go to the right option. The first thing we do is we go here and we navigate to the proper path we want to store the outputs. So I go to Shared, Training, Landslide Detection Iceland Tutorial Kit, and I select the processing folder. So here you see that you have the orb and the stack suffixes added at the end of the name of the product. So we don't need to keep that long name, so we can just remove all this part to keep the date of the first product of the master one, which is 23rd June 2018. And we can also add the 2018-07-17, which is of the second product, so that we know which are the two images we have co-registered. The second thing I would advise you also to do is here in the name to go and put number 2, so that you remember in the output which is the interferometric white swath you have selected for the co-registration. And then you click Run. So this process is not taking very long, but I will not run it now. I will close it and I will load the pre-processed stack I had created for you. So here it is. If I expand it now, I will see that in the bands folder, I have the information of intensity of master, of VV polarization, and intensity of slave. So this is what I wanted, this is what I needed. If I open them now, and I go to Window, Tile Horizontally, we can see that from the whole swath, we only have the two bursts we have selected. What can we see from here? I know where the area of the landslide is, so just let me zoom into that. Okay. I know that my landslide is over here. As you can see, there are some differences between the two images. As I said, we will use the information of phase and the information of amplitude. The amplitude is here depicted within the intensity band. So we see here some differences. Here we see an area that has quite high values, and here this area doesn't have it. Why is this happening? Because here the first image on the left is the one before the landslide and the second is after. So this is actually the first indicator that something has changed here and has changed quite a lot. And this is the landslide. This is not very clear to see. What can we do to see it better? Let me close them. We can go here and we can create an RGB composition. So as we said, we right click here we go to Open RGB Image window, and we want to select on the red channel to have the intensity of the master one, which is the one before the event, and on the green, the intensity of the slave one, which is the one after the landslide. And we leave the blue as it is. So what will happen here? All the pixels that have been only in the first image will be depicted as red, and all the pixels that appear only in the second image will be appeared as green. So let's click OK. And here we see that we have different colors. We have some red, we have some green, we have some yellow, and also some black. We will ignore the black parts. But let's focus a bit on the other colors. Again, let me zoom in the area that I know that it is the landslide. Okay, so we can see that there are some yellow pixels. Those yellow pixels, what do they mean? They actually mean that are the successfully co-registered pixels of both images. But here we see an area that contains a lot of green pixels. That means that this information didn't exist in the first one, in the one before the event. If you remember, we put in the green channel the image after the landslide happened. So this is actually where our landslide is located. We can see it very clearly. But apart from that, this is still not the final step that we can use. This is just to help us visualize and see the difference. What we also want to do is to use the phase and the coherence of the images. In order to do that, we need to create an interferogram and apply the next steps. So let me close this one. And for that, we will build a graph. So I go to Tools, Graph Builder. Let me expand it a bit. The first thing that happens when we open this one is we see this white area up here that contains two operators, the read and the write. First of all, when we create a graph, we go on the right, we right-click on it, and we select Delete, so that we can add all the rest operators on sequence and add the right operator again at the end. Otherwise, we will have an error that the graph is incomplete. On the lower part, we have some tabs, so whatever happens up here appears as a tab on the lower part. What we will do is we will build step by step this graph, and we will set the parameters at the same time on the lower part. To start with, as we said, the read operator will contain the stack product we created before. So it is here already selected. The first operator we will add is the one to create the interferogram. So we just right-click on the empty white space, we go to Add, Radar, Interferometric, Products, Interferogram, and we select it. You see that it appears here, and we need to connect it with a read operator. So we go on the right side of the read, and we drag and drop the arrow towards the interferogram operator. Then we go down to the tab that has appeared, and we do not change anything of the parameters. The next operator we need to add is, as we mentioned, we need to add the deburst one, so that we remove those black parts that are between the two bursts, so that we actually put the two bursts together. We go to Add, Radar, Sentinel-1 tops. Tops are deburst. We connect it also with the interferogram. And here we see that the polarization available is the VV, because this is the only available we have in our product. Next operator we add is the topographic phase removal. We right-click again, we go to Add, Radar, Interferometric, products, top of face removal. Again, we connect it with the previous one. In the tab now, if you remember, we need to set the digital elevation model, and as we said, SRTM is not available in this area. So we go again and we select the one we selected before for the registration. Next step is to obtain square pixels, as we said in the beginning. So we need to multi-look it because this is elongated and we need to make it square pixels. So we go to Add, Radar, and we select multi-look. Again, we connect it. And here we can see the source bands available. We do not touch anything, but here we come in the number of range looks and we put 8, so that automatically the mean square pixel becomes 28. So the original SAR image contains some inherent speckle noise. With multi-looking, we reduce the speckle appearance and we improve the image interpretability so that we obtain the square pixels. The next step is the face filtering. We need now to filter the face. We go to Add, Radar, Interferometric, Filtering, Goldstein Face Filtering. So in this one, we can leave the default parameters, but in this case, I will just enhance the filter a bit and put it to 128. So finally, once we have applied all those steps, we need to add the right operator. We go to Add, Input, Output, Right, so that we have our output. So we go again here. Again, we go to the folder we want to store it. Processing. I select. So here you can see that the interferogram, the burst, differential interferometry, multi-look and filtering options have been added to the name of the product. Before we run it, we should go here to save. We should navigate to the folder we want. I go again in the same one. Landslide Detection Iceland Tutorial Kit. In the processing, and here I select a name for the graph to save it. I save it as graph and I click Save. And I want to save it so that if I want to apply those steps again for a different pair of images, I do not need to create all the time the graph. I just go and I load the previous one that I have already created and I run the processing. Okay, I'm not running it right now. I will just show you immediately the result. So let me close that. Okay, I expand it and I see now, let's see the differences from the previous one. In the previous one, we had the intensity bands. Okay, the intensity band of the master and of the slave. And now we have an intensity band that contains both products. From this processing, the phase band has been created and also the coherence band. First of all, let me open the coherence band. Okay, if we go to color manipulation, here we can see the values. And also if you go to the pixel info and you click and you navigate with the cursor over the image, you can see the values of the coherence here on the left each pixel has. So if I go over a white area, you see that I have quite high coherence, like here 0.9. If I go to a black one, you can see that I have very low values of 0.2. So with black are the areas with low coherence. Now the image is multi-looked, which means it became in square pixels. So what we need to do is we need to go again and zoom in the area of the landslide. What do we expect to see in that area? Since the changes from the first to the second image are quite significant, we expect to see some loss of coherence because the pixels wouldn't be able to co-register properly. So let me go back to the Product Explorer window and let me move to the area over the landslide. Okay. So here it is. Here, this is the part that we see that we have this black area, which corresponds to the area of the landslide. Now, someone will say that we have many parts that have low values of coherence, and we have black areas. And how can we know that there is a landslide happening there? There are many parameters that we need to take into consideration. For example, any areas that contain water, all the water bodies, will always have very low coherence, and they will also appear as black. So many lakes will appear as black. But as I mentioned in the beginning, you had the two intensity bands, the one from the first product before the event and the one afterwards, and we could very clearly see that in the second product, the values of the intensity over the area that the landslide was were very high, something that was missing totally from the previous one, while all the other features, they were existing before in both images. So this is one way to see that here we have extreme loss of coherence. If we go again to pixel info, we will see very low values. So this is the area of the landslide. Okay, we saw how the coherence can help us find these changes, but how can the phase help us in this case? If I open the phase band and I go to Window Tile Horizontally and I zoom in again to the area of the landslide, I can see that here there is this area that we have also loss of phase. I will show you a bit later more clearly this result, but as a first indicator, why do we see that happening? This is happening because the displacement between the two images has been very large, so fringes couldn't be created as we can see here. So we also lost the phase due to these huge rapid changes that occurred in the area. I will close this one and this one to continue with the next step, because as we said, what we need to do is to apply the geocoding step, the terrain correction, so that we have the products geolocated. So we select this one and we go to Radar, Geometric, Terrain Correction, Range Doubler Terrain Correction, and we select it. Here we see at the source one we have the last product created, and on the name the TC, the terrain correction, has been added. Again, the first thing we do is we go and we navigate to the folder we want to store our output. So I go again here in the processing and I select it. What we need to do now is we need to have two outputs, because in QGIS, if we want to add it and combine it with, if we want to open the bands in QGIS and combine it with other data, with GPS measurements of a GPS station on the area or any other kind of data, we can have it in any coordinate system we want, since QGIS can read everything, but we would prefer to have it in UTM. But for using it in Google Earth, we need to have it in geographic coordinates. So first of all, if we go to the processing parameters, we can select in the source bands only the bands that we would like to be terrain corrected. So we select intensity, phase, and coherence. Remember, we select the proper digital elevation model. we leave the rest parameters as they are, and in the map projection we see that automatically we have the terrain correction for geographic coordinates. So if we click run, the output, this one, can be used for visualization in Google Earth. And then we click run. Remember, you can go in the IO parameters tab, and here you can add, for example, the lat and lon for latitude and longitude, so that you know which is the terrain corrected product you have. If we go now here back again and we go to the map projection and we select it, we can go down and we can select the UTM WGS84 automatic one. This way you see it automatically takes the zone 27. We go now to the IO parameters and instead we write a UTM, so that we know what is the difference between the two terrain corrected products. And we click run. And this one, we will use it for QGIS. Just let me load them now, both of them. So here I have the first one in geographic coordinates. And here I have the second one in UTM. If I open them, if I open, for example, the coherence of the terrain corrected on geographic coordinates, this is how it will look like. If I open the next one of the coherence again, you will see that it has been also reprojected, but it has some slight differences. If I put window tile horizontally, you can see that I cannot see them the one next to the other, since they have different projection system. If I open the coherence and the phase ones, we see that they are quite long and we don't really need to have all these images. The first thing we do when we split the product is to select only the bursts we need, so that we minimize the area that we are processing to save our storage space. But now you see that this is also quite long. So what do we want to do? We want to create subset for both of them, because we don't need all this information. You can also leave it as it is, but in case you want to create a subset, you open the one that you want to use. You go to raster, subset, and here you go to the Geo Coordinates. In the Geo Coordinates, in this case, we need to put for our area that contains the landslide, we need to put 64.871 for the north latitude bound. For the west longitude bound, we need to put minus 22.248. For the south longitude bound, we need to put 64.708. And finally, for the east one, we go minus 21.962. And we click OK. Before we click OK, we see that here on the left, this is the area of our landslide with the blue rectangle. And then we click OK. Once we click OK, the product appears here on the left with the name subset 0 of the product. Now if I open the band and I open the coherence one, I see that I have only the area that contains my landslide. My landslide is in here. So it's quite smaller than the previous one. You have the subset here on the left, but this is not physically stored. If you want to store it, you right click on it, you go to Save Product, and in this window that appears, you select Yes, because it needs to convert it to the DIM DMAP format so that it will be able to be read by Snap afterwards. So we click yes. We navigate to the folder we want again. And once we are in the folder we want, we give the file name we need and we click save. I would suggest to save it as subset and then keep the rest name by default as it is, and you click save, and this is it. You can do also the same with the second product with the UTM1. Okay, what do we want to do now? Once we have created also the subsets, we want to export them. How are we going to export them? We need to go here, select the product, and if I open the phase 1 and the coherence, so let me close all the previous views and keep only those two opened. I will go for the first one, for the phase band. I will go here and I will go to the color manipulation. And I will see here the minimum and maximum value. As we see up here, the minimum is minus 3.14 and the maximum 3.14. If you remember, this is the values for a full color cycle. And here we do not see it like that. So what we will do is we will go to the editor on the basic one and we will select this option that says range from data. Once we do it, we see that it gets the proper range in the values, and you see a slight difference also here in the area. If you make any mistake, we can just go here and you click to the reset to defaults and it goes back to the defaults. Once you have selected range from data, if you want to save it like that, you just go to the product, you right click again and you go save product, and it is saving all the changes. Okay, let me close them now. And I will go here to this product that we have the geographic coordinates. I will open the phase and the coherence that contains the full product without the subset, and I want to export them. So I will just go first to the phase, I will right click on it and I will click export view as Google Earth KMZ. Once I do that, I navigate again to the folder that I want it to be stored in the processing, and I just give it a name. In this case, I name it as phase. I keep the rest by default and I add at the end the full so that I know if I want to export the subset to give it a different name, and I click save. I repeat the same for the coherence as well. Here, right click, export, etc. If I now want to export it as GeoTIFF to put it in a QGIS, I need to select it here on the left. I need to go to File, to Export, GeoTIFF. First I go to Subset, to Band Subset, and if I want to export only the coherence, I deselect the others, I leave only the coherence. I click OK. Here again I navigate to the proper folder that I want and I give the name to the TIFF file that I wish. And then I click export product, and this is it. Before we move out from here, I will show you another example. So let me keep the face opened. I will show you another interferometric pair I have created for you that contains two images, both of them acquired before the landslide. So the first one is again the same one, 23rd of June 2018, and the second one was acquired on 5th of July, 2 days before we had the landslide. I will load it here to show you some differences. I have it stored in the prevent. Okay. So I have here the face opened of the one that we have processed. And I open now also the second one. If I put them in parallel and I go and I zoom in to the landslide area, here it is, this is it, I will see some significant differences. The first thing I notice is that before the event, which is on the right side, we do not have any loss of coherence and we do not have any displacement actually. The second part that we notice is that also on the part on the western of it, again, no significant changes. But what we see here on the left image is that on the area of the landslide, we have a loss of phase, and also on the western part, we have some extra fringes that have been created. And this means something. So what we know for sure for the area is that this landslide was always been moving slowly. And what we know is that after the landslide happened, there were some shakes, some quakes that have been triggered, and we can see deformation on the whole area in general. While a few days ago, there was nothing happening in this area. Once the landslide happened, we can see both the loss of phase over the landslide area and the new fringes that have been created, and we can measure the displacement. So for both of them, I have exported already in KMZ, and we will go now to show you in Google Earth how it looks like and how we can measure the extent of the landslide. But since we do not have installed the Google Earth on the virtual machines, the first thing we need to do is to download these outputs to our local computer. So how do we do it? How can we interact between the virtual machine and our PC? We press in our keyboard Ctrl, Alt and Shift, and this window appears on the left. So here on the devices, I can go here, I click, I navigate to the path that I have saved the outputs, processing, and here what I only need to do is just to double click on the product that I want to download, and the download immediately starts. And here you have it in your download products. If I go back again in the beginning, you see here a white part. This white part is also useful because this way you can copy and paste information from your virtual machine to your computer and vice versa. So if I want to copy a text from a Word file in my computer, first I paste it here, then I copy it from here and I paste it again on my virtual machine. The same happens the other way as well. If I click on Ctrl, Alt and Shift, this window goes away again. Okay, so now it's time to go to the Google Earth and open the products, the coherence and the phase I have already downloaded to show you in Google Earth. We are now to the Google Earth, and here we can see that here is where our landslide is. It is quite visible even today from Google Earth. And here, what is interesting is that we can also see that here the landslide, if you remember, it blocked the river that was coming down. It created a small lake. And here you can see the new path the river found, and down here it goes again and it connects to the initial bank it had. So we can see that all these sediments are new sediments that have been created after the landslide. Okay, now let's put our coherence image. So if you see, we put it, we remove it and we bring it back. We can see here with black that is the area of the landslide. So what we have done is we have designed a polygon. You go here to add polygon. You can name it, give it style and whatever you want. We have created one around this area, and if I open it, the landslide extent, here it is. I can go to right click, properties, and in the measurements I can see the area. It is 2.1 square kilometers, which is quite accurate to the initial estimation that was around 1.8. But remember that it's almost 2 years that have passed. This landslide happened in July 2018. So the current image, of course, has some changes from the past. But okay, let me close that. Let me bring again the coherence of the landslide, and there it is. You can see it very clearly. You can also go and search here in the history and find some past imagery. But unfortunately, there is an image available from 2017 before the landslide. As you can see, there is nothing here. The river is running normally. And if we go afterwards, we have one which is after, which is on May 2019. We do not have something closer to the date of the landslide event. The same can happen also if we add the phase information. Here you can see the loss of phase and also the values on the left. And we can also compare it with the one that we mentioned before from the other interferometric pair that was from the two images that were both before the event. So you see, which are the differences? Just remember, this is an example to show you how to detect rapid landslides. And remember always that landslides is something that is happening usually quite rapidly. We usually do not have information that it is going to happen. We can have some indications implying that probably something will happen. We can measure these movements. And also if you combine it with ground station data, you can have a better overview of an area and what is happening. The impacts of landslides are quite huge. Luckily, this happened in a remote area, but still, even today, it is quite dangerous for people to go and visit this area around because it is quite unstable. And it is useful to know where we had previous landslides so that we can protect ourselves from future ones, because most likely there is going to be another one in the same area, since it seems that it's quite unstable. Okay, let me go back quickly to the take-home message before we continue to the Q&A session. With the new Sentinel satellites, the challenge in satellite remote sensing is no longer data availability, but rather how to store and process all the information. In addition to that, it is necessary to explain how the data can be used and support users in their applications. So the RUS service is here to solve those problems by providing virtual machines to store and process the data, and by offering a dedicated help desk support team of remote sensing experts to help you in your projects with Sentinel data. So before moving to the Q&A session, let me tell you again that you can repeat this exercise by your own if you want to. Practice, adapt the methodology to your own application. And for that one, go to rus-copernicus.eu, register in RUS and apply for a virtual machine. You will receive the training kit that contains the PDF of the step-by-step guide. Also, do not miss our next RUS webinar on another topic using Sentinel 5P data. So this was all from my side. I will now give you a couple of minutes to pose your questions, and I will be back to you for the Q&A session. Thank you very much again for attending. Your questions will be published in the Q&A document we will release, and also the video will be uploaded in the YouTube channel. Till the next time we meet, try to stay home and stay safe. Bye bye!